Open your ears and lube up your butthole. It's time for the What Do We Call It podcast. Now, here's your host. It's Jmann. Welcome to the What Do We Call It podcast. I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
It's been a little bit, but I want to tell you about my day in court.
This is that psycho, that lady that kept harassing you via email and all that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So, to bring anybody that is unfamiliar up to speed, I'm a social worker. I have numerous clients, and I had one in particular who was quite mentally ill and has a traumatic brain injury. So this individual has a sister who, for all intents and purposes, seems like a self-important cunt. Thinks her shit does not stink. And no matter how much I tried to do in this case to help the client, it's like she was always trying to be there to try to, quote, save the day. And we all pretty much came to the conclusion that she herself is mentally ill and has codependency issues. Like she said for years that her sibling would abuse her horribly.
How does a mentally handicapped person come up with the concept of abuse?
No, mentally ill.
Yeah.
That's not mentally handicapped.
Oh, okay, mentally ill, sorry. Okay, so psychotic then.
So she said that her brother used to beat on her and their other siblings when their parents weren't home, and that years ago, her brother stabbed their father for coming to their defense when he was beating on them, and then they just never did anything about it because he didn't want him to go to jail.
I think if one of my kids stabbed me, their ass is going to jail.
Right. So anyways, it came down to her continually telling me I needed to, quote, do my job, which I only have so much power. I can't force the police to put a mental health hold on anybody. They have to decide if there's a personal or public safety issue. So because I continually was unable to get the cops to handcuff her brother and whisk him away to the mental ward, she kept insinuating that I, A, didn't know how to do my job, and B, was half-assing it, which really started to grind my gears. Mm-hmm. And then in an email one night, she was like pleading with me to get her brother locked away and to do my job before somebody gets hurt because it's on my conscience if they do. And I'm like, I don't have the ability to force the police to lock your brother up. Maybe if you knew what my job entailed and the powers of it and how limited they can be at times, I wouldn't have needed to have an officer from a mental health crisis unit call you to explain my job because you yourself had no idea, apparently, which pissed her off, telling her she didn't know anything about my job itself.
Stupid bitch.
Okay, this lady, is she just constantly hammering about, I want him locked up, It's not, oh, you need to help him, you know, there's services at this facility that he needs, but I need you to put him there.
Nope.
It's just, lock him up, I don't like him, he's a danger.
I'm scared for my life, he's threatened me. This person did legitimately have their ability to own firearms revoked by the police.
Okay, yeah, I got.
For all intents and purposes of current terms, he got red flagged.
Okay.
And they took away his AK-47s and his permit to purchase.
Thank God.
Because this individual was in possession of thousands of rounds. I'm not shitting you. Dozens of fully loaded, ready-to-rock 30-round mags of 7.62 in ammo cases in a closet in an apartment. So anyways, it pissed her off to no end that I called her out for not knowing what she was talking about. So then she took to insulting me in an email saying that my first impression of you was a loser driving a broken down beater of a car. You probably make, just above minimum wage, so around $15. No woman's going to want to date that, right? Acting like an alpha male, but you're not an alpha male. I'm like, what is with this woman?
Yeah, I have to agree with your assessment that she might have some mental issues of her own.
If you want to say that you don't like me, fine, but you're emailing me insults and then saying if I come back at you at all, you're going to call the cops and say I'm harassing you. You're textbook harassing me, you dumb gash.
It's amazing how people don't understand that their actions do have consequences.
Right. So things progressed, and I told her to spare me her parting shots. And then she kept emailing me, so I called the cops. And then I called the cops to call her to tell her to leave me alone. Because the emails she were sending were, I just got a frantic phone call from my brother's neighbor who says he's in the hallway, pounding on doors, trying to break his way into their apartments, and that people are afraid he's going to hurt them. So I called the cops and I sent them over. Like, my boss is like, why are you answering emails on off hours? I'm like, because shit was hitting the fan. I don't want her pointing a finger saying that I'm not doing my job or I'm putting people at risk. In today's fucking finger point, trigger happy, no pun intended, society, if you don't do what people think you need to do, regardless of what your actual duties are, you will get murdered in the court of public opinion.
Yeah, and some judges would totally agree with that. It's like, well, you could have done more. I mean, you're responsible for this person. Like, only from 9 to 5.
Well, I can't control anybody's decisions. I could say, don't do this, don't do that, and then I leave, and they completely they could sit there with a razor blade and fucking start cutting designs on themselves for fun. Or they could, rape a puppy while I'm not there, or take a whole fucking bottle of sleeping pills. I can't physically stop them. So people think that, like, social work, we have all this power. We don't. We don't have absolute power over the people that we work with. We help them find benefits. We help with informed decision-making. We may handle advanced healthcare directives. We may be case managers or ILS workers or supportive life services or mental health services. There's such a wide fucking range of different jobs under that umbrella. And this broad, like, for all intents and purposes, begged to have somebody work with her brother, but apparently took no time to actually research what the job entails. So fast forward to around Christmas time. I had all kinds of issues with her, not even with the client.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime she could try to get me in trouble, she would. She called my boss and made a bunch of shit up. He had to question me. She called adult protection on me and said that I was trying to deny her brother his property. I wasn't. She also took to emailing the boss of my boss's boss, so the head of our office, saying that I was fired from my last job for abusing inmates, and how dare they hire someone who was abusing a population of, locked away criminals and put them in charge of vulnerable adults now. And I was like, bitch, are you out of your fucking mind? One, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You Googled my name and found a document pertaining to an arbitration hearing where I thought my previous employer was railroading me. They were. And I said there's no way I did what these fuckers were alleging. I didn't. And that they were crooked as a hobo's nose because they have to fight for their dinner and get punched in the face a lot. So she said that, and my boss had to ask me, is it true? I'm like, no, it's not true. He's like, well, she's saying that you had unpaid suspensions. I'm like, oh, yeah, I had a couple of those. And I explained the situation. He's like, oh, well, I mean, I know you told me that it was not an ideal situation working there, but I didn't know it was like that. I'm like, I promise you on my kids, I'm not fucking exaggerating or leaving out details to make myself seem innocent. That is literally the hell I worked in because of the powers that be were up my ass for calling them out for poor decision-making and improper staffing levels and favoritism. I worked in a cesspool of bullshit. Mm-hmm. So now I got out of there. I got this new job on my own, clean break. And then this fucking cunt brings all this shit to my doorstep. And I'm like, how fucking dare you? That's insane. You're basically cyber stalking me. She clearly Googled my name and looked for any dirt she could find on me or anything she thought she could use against me. No matter how fucking vague the details, whether damning or not, she was going to create her own false narrative and try to get me removed from my position. And I'm like,
as if your superiors wouldn't be looking at your record or doing their own research.
Oh, yeah. And
like, they're going to take me totally for my word.
Right. And there's another sibling that they have who was just like the whole time getting mentioned like he was working in Congress with the sister to try to fuck me over, but he had no part in it. And it was never, I think this and I think that. It's, we think this should happen and we think me isn't doing his job and should be held accountable and should be reported for neglect. So she started actively petitioning professional members of her brother, my client's team, like other social workers, other group home staff, alleging that I should be reported as an abuser because I got fired from my old job for abusing inmates. Defamation of character.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, total, you are defaming the shit out of me in an unbelievable scale. And the funniest fucking part was she would CC me on all the emails. As if she thought, I'm going to break you down and make you feel small. Why? Because I pointed out that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about? I'm sorry that you have this sense of entitlement that the world should just bend to your every whim. When you say jump, everyone should say how high because you think you're so fucking important. But I promise you, you have no husband, because he died. I found that out. You have no kids, and almost nobody talks to you. And I did Googling of my own. She's a fucking enigma. It's like she doesn't exist, whether that's by design or because of her age and she's not involved in social media. In her mid-50s.
Okay, so this is clearly someone that should know better.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because at this point, you've never told me how old she was, and I was for a while there picturing like a 20-year-old, late 20s, early 30s.
Nope, this is somebody who allegedly flies to New York for work for days on end and then comes back home. Like they're this socialite, very important motherfucker. And I went and got a harassment restraining order against her because I was sick of it.
That, yeah.
And then when I found out her address, obviously, I had to give it to the courts because once upon a time ago, we were supposed to have a court date on Valentine's Day. Well, they never served her with the paperwork for the restraining order because I didn't have her address. I had an address and I didn't want to just give it and it ends up being somebody else's house. Mm-hmm. But once I was able to confirm the address, she ain't living large by any means. You're making fun of my fucking Ford Focus, which doesn't have a dent on it, you dumb bitch. And you drive an SUV, not even a fancy one, a fucking Honda Pilot.
Ooh, yeah, that's really big bucks there.
And every time I would see her, she'd be wearing jeans and a cream-colored turtleneck sweater. Like the same fucking outfit every time I saw her.
This is my work uniform.
I don't know. But once I got the restraining order worked out, like I had to submit the address to the courts so they could serve her the paperwork and then give us a new court date so that she could, defend herself in a hearing. She got served the paperwork. Went fucking ballistic. She then...
I find that funny.
Took to Googling my name again. Found a document from my child support / custody case. And created an entire false fucking narrative from that.
It's amazing how that's available publicly.
Well, it's a court filing, but it doesn't give specifics. It names the parties involved.
Well, that's just it. It shouldn't even have that.
Well, it's a court document. What can I say?
I wonder if my divorce stuff is in there.
Probably. If we looked you up right now, we could probably find it.
I'm kind of curious.
Your name, in regards to the dissolution of marriage between you and Leadhead, it would fucking be in there. I almost guarantee it. I'm like 99.99% certain it would be in there.
I don't know. I've never even Googled my own name. So.
And you know what else would be attached to that file? The names of your children.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that wouldn't be right, though.
So anyways, she then emailed my boss and my coworker who had gotten the case from me because she demanded I be taken off the case because I was so piss poor at my job. Mm-hmm. And because I'd embarrassed her multiple times. I basically, anytime that she went on the offensive, I had to go on the defensive, and I told people, here's what I'm dealing with from her. And I had to put a communication blockage in place to keep her away from him and him away from her because the guy was like fixated on the sister. And she said she was scared for her life but couldn't stay away, hence the codependency.
Well, that's just it. Like, if she has a job in New York, which was such high demand... and she's scared of her brother, why not move to New York
I don't fucking know.
I mean,
don't know.
if I was scared of my brother, you bet your ass I'd skip town.
Right. So anyways, yeah, once I put the communication blockage in order, she flipped out and demanded I be taken off the case, which they flipped it to another person in my office, which is fine. I felt like it was a bullshit move on their behalf to give in to her demands, but they did it to kind of just keep things calm.
It'd probably leave pressure off of you, too. They probably realized how much stress it was causing.
Oh,
you.
I fucking loved it, though, because anytime she thought she had me, I had the power of procedure. Through the courts, through the police. I followed everything to the fucking T. I never once contacted her once she said, don't contact me again. But any time that I was upset with her, I called the cops to contact her, which is what you're supposed to do. And anyways, so she found my custody case info and emailed my boss and my coworker on a fucking Saturday, the day she got served the harassment restraining order paperwork, which it does go into effect immediately until you have the hearing, and the hearing determines whether it will go to trial or it will be thrown out, like if I want it taken off the books.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in effect. So she emails them and says that my ex once had a protection order against me and is deathly afraid that I'm going to harm our children and is trying to keep them away from me at all costs because I'm an abuser, and she's afraid I'm going to hurt them.
Excuse me, bitch?
But here she doesn't know the whole story about how your ex is a lying piece of shit.
So my coworker tipped me off for the emails. I'm like, fucking send them to me. I called the cops. The cops came to my house. I had a cop call her. It was
That's
very...
the night I came here and there was an officer?
Yes.
That was her? Okay.
Yes, and it was borderline whether or not she had violated the order. My opinion, she totally fucking had. Because I put in a clause in there saying, you know, no phone, no email, no text, no visits in person, and no third-party harassment. Meaning if she tries to get at me through other people.
Which she did, is she emailed your bosses again about you.
Oh, yeah. Trying to basically defame me again, which I went in Monday morning. I'm like, here's the deal. I know you saw the emails. Let's talk. Here's the truth. Everything she said could not be more back-ass words. I promise you. My ex, my kid's mom, domestically assaulted me on multiple occasions, and in one of those instances I had her arrested, and they put a protection order in place. So I was the victim, not her. And she's not trying to keep our kids away from me because she knows that I treat our kids unbelievably well and have bent over backwards and just been shit on by her just to make sure they were comfortable. Like, I couldn't be a more responsible and present father despite them living between two households. And they're like, okay, we get it. Yeah, that's fine. So fast forward to the actual hearing day, the basis of this. That was 18 minutes of catching you up on the backstory. We get to court, and I show up to the building, and I get there, and I check in, and her name's already highlighted, so she's there, and I turn and I see her. It's a waiting area outside of multiple courtrooms. And I sat around the corner so she couldn't really see me. And I had fucking notes ready. I was like locked and loaded to give the judge a rundown of the sequence of events. Because I was like, there's no way in fucking hell she can justify any of this harassing and defamatory bullshit. Mm-hmm. And I was going to tell her how wrong she had everything. Just to see her fucking face.
Are you picturing it? I'm picturing it.
So we wait around, and it gets to the point where they have the mediators come. These are the people that get the parties involved to sit in a room and ask if they're willing to come to some sort of agreement to save us from going to a hearing to try to divert more people from going to a trial on the matter or an actual court date on the matter.
Just like a mini trial.
Yes. So the mediator called my name, finally, and she walked up to me. She's like, hi, I'm the mediator. I'm like, not interested. Excuse me? Nope. No, thank you. You don't want to mediate? I'm like, no, not at all. Thank you. And I walked away. Like fucking 10 seconds or less.
My ass is going to court. I don't care.
Oh, I was not going to let that bitch try to sweet talk her way. For all I knew, she was there with an attorney.
Maybe.
She was there with the other brother, who she said, once I put the harassment restraining order on her, she said to my boss that He's going to have his day in court, and it won't be pretty. How dare he say I'm stalking and harassing him? My brother will stand up for me. And I'm like, what's your brother going to do? You fucking sent the emails from your phone, you stupid bitch. It says right there.
I have copies.
I had fucking every page of every email with me. With a copy of the order and my Cliff Notes.
You are pretty thorough when it comes to this kind of stuff.
When you piss me off and you get my family involved, you better move to another fucking planet. Because I will do everything short of physically harming you to make sure that you get your comeuppance. I don't fuck around when it comes to my kids.
No, you don't.
And finally, my boss had said he would come and, talk on my behalf if they needed him to corroborate anything that she had said and sent to him, because she was always like sending it to him too. And we get into the courtroom, and the judge lets me know that she doesn't want me to say anything into the microphone about specifics of the case. She just wants to know if I want to go through with upholding the order. I said yes. She's like, is there anything else I can do? I'm like, well, I would like to extend the order to my minor children because they have been brought into this by the other party. She's like, well, you would have had to file to add them ahead of time. I'm like, I didn't know that. I'm like, we can't do it now. She's like, well, you didn't want to talk to a mediator. And I said, why would I talk to a mediator if I have no intention of dropping this because I'm so adamant that I have been harassed and defamed? So then she asks her how she wants to handle it. Does she want to deny the claims and have a hearing, like a trial? Mm-hmm. Or does she want to accept the finding without fact, which means she will say that she will accept the order, but at no time will the specifics be discussed and become official record.
Okay.
So it's like an Elford plea, if you know what that means.
Not exactly.
In criminal justice, an Elford plea is, I'm not guilty, but I'm not going to fight the charges against me because I believe there's a chance you could use the evidence you have and I could be wrongfully convicted. Or I could see how you could convict me of the crime despite my acknowledging adamantly I'm not guilty.
Isn't that kind of like pleading the fifth?
Kind of.
I don't know why there's
with less cover.
Such kind of loopholes in the court system. It just seems kind of redundant.
So the judge very slowly fucking explained this to her, how it works. If you accept it finding without fact, the order will stay in effect for 2 years. You won't have to go to a trial, and you won't have to discuss the specifics of the case. And she's like, could you explain that to me one more time? And I just went, if you take it right now, it means that we don't go any further and everything you did is a secret. Which the judge was kind of like, shut up.
Did you actually say that?
No.
Okay.
No. And she's like, okay, well, I'm going to take the finding without fact because I spoke with an attorney and they advised me that that's what I should do. Translation. She talked to an attorney. They asked the right questions. She told them what she did and they said, bitch, are you nuts?
Probably.
Do not fucking take this to trial to try to get out of it. You will get crucified. There's a mountain of evidence. A mountain. 36 pages of emails.
I think I would have picked up and been like, hello.
Yeah.
Kind of waved it at her.
And I just said to the judge, I'm like, well,
Is there a way we can avoid that?
She's like, are you happy with that? I'm like, I'm not really. I mean, I'm glad that the order's in place, but frankly, I don't think it's fair that it won't be official record what she did. And the judge kept trying to stop me from saying anything about what she did. So he's like,
it's not supposed to be specific, but yeah.
Right, because anything that is said in that hearing must be typed in by the court reporter unless the judge rules it's stricken from the record.
Which anything you say, the judge would just say, yeah, stricken that from the record.
Right. So I've just frankly, she's like, do you have a question then? And I'm like, I don't see how this is the end, honestly, because, I mean, one of the terms that I put in there was no third-party contact. And she did that. She's like, well, hang on. You can't talk about specifics. I'm like, she violated the order, though. The day she was served the papers, within 9 hours, she violated the terms of the order. All right? I'm upset about this. I don't think she should get off scot-free the way she is without it being on record what she did. I'm not the one who brought my kids into this. She is. And I turned and I fucking glared at her. She did not look at me the whole time. Not once did her gaze divert from the judge and the front of the courtroom. And I'm burning a hole in her cheek, and the judge is like, don't look at her, look up here. She warned me not to even look at her because she could see how fucking hot I was.
If I stare at her hard enough, she'll explode.
Yeah. So I basically got what I wanted without getting what I wanted.
Sounds like you were kind of cheated.
Oh, I
think you're right.
fucked.
She talked to an attorney, and the attorney's like, if you emailed his bosses the day you were served, you were in complete violation, and I don't think she'd see jail time or anything, would she?
Yeah.
She
if
would?
you're in violation of a restraining order.
Oh, shit. Yeah, well, fuck. God damn it. She got off scot-free.
Pretty much. Because now it's not like if you look it up in the courts, as of now, as far as I can see, it's not on there. I don't know how you would see a harassment restraining order outside of being a cop. I thought it would be on public databases for the courts if you look it up by her name for civil stuff or for criminal. It's not on either. She's got
because it's not public record. So next time she goes and does this shit, it'll be like, oh, this is my first time ever doing this. I've never done this before.
Oh, no,
And there's
it'll
record.
be up there.
It will? Okay.
If she gets pulled over for speeding, it'll show whether she's a gun owner, if she has any outstanding harassment, restraining orders, or contact or protection orders. It's right fucking there.
Well, that's for police data, though. What about just public data?
If she gets a job that requires her to be deeply backgrounded,
Like my job did.
if they ask her and she says no and they find out about it, she's fucking
she's no
fired.
longer- yeah, she's
There's
not even gonna be
no
a
offer
candidate.
to withdraw or quit the job without the firing on your record. You're fucking fired.
Okay.
It would have to be a very, very kind employer to let her offer her resignation because, I mean, you would be resigning in lieu of termination.
Yeah, I had to do that once.
But the funny thing is she freaked out that I put this order in effect because she knew that this was serious. And then she was emailing my boss trying to talk him when she said that I was an abuser and that the beast had a no contact order or protection order, and because she was afraid I was going to hurt the kids. She's like, "You don't honestly believe that I was stalking him like this, do you? You on multiple occasions went to the internet, and yes, it was public data, but you were looking, obviously scouring for any information you thought you could use against me. For all I know, you found my address and drove by my fucking house. I can't rule it out because you're nuts." So, I mean, I feel robbed. I think it's bullshit that someone can just take that plea and none of what they did is record. So the only way for it to become record now is for me to sue her civilly, which costs me money.
But if you win, you get that money back.
I should, but there's no telling that she has enough assets to cover what I'd ask and that the lawyer wouldn't fucking try to rob me blind.
She would take payment. She would have to make payments, wouldn't she?
Who knows? She could go and file an appeal with an attorney to try to get the award reduced. It happens all the fucking time. And sometimes it gets reversed.
Fucking embarrassing!
Interact with the show on Twitter at What Do We Call It? That is at What Do We Call It? You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/group/What Do We Call It podcast show. For the What Do We Call It podcast, I'm Jmann.
And I'm number one fan, Tim.
And that's the end.